Echo and HarperAudio present The Arrogant Years, One Girl's Search for Her Lost Youth, From Cairo to Brooklyn, by Lucette Lagnado, read by Joyce Bean. She put on the first ankle-length day dress she had owned in many years and crossed herself reverently with Chanel 16. How good to be worshipped again, to pretend to have a mystery. She had lost 2 of the great arrogant years in the life of a pretty girl. Now she felt like making up for them. F. Scott Fitzgerald, Tender is the Night. You are always talking about rebuilding the hearth. What hearth? Tell me. Alphonse Daudet, Les Petites Choses. Blessed is the Lord who revives the dead. Hebrew Daily Prayer. Prologue. The Avenger of 66th Street. Come September, the women's section of the Shield of Young David Synagogue was once again crowded as families returned from their summer holidays, and those of us who had been left behind week after week to attend virtually empty services felt a bit like soldiers who managed to prevail on a hopelessly abandoned battlefield. Back from the family bungalow in the Catskills, Mrs. Rubin, the rabbi's wife, once again took her seat in the front, her flock of daughters in tow. The Rubin girls, each named after a biblical heroine, Miriam, Deborah, Rebecca, Rochelle, occupied an entire row behind the tall wooden divider that separated us from the men. My mother, Edith, and I were among the first to arrive on Saturday mornings, and while we could have grabbed the front row seats of the women's section for ourselves, more often than not we made our way to the second row, in deference to La Femme du Rabbin, as Mom liked to refer to Mrs. Rubin. She never once called her by her name. Rabbi Rubin's wife was a thin, stern figure who never raised her voice or lost her temper, yet still terrified me. She was vastly different from her husband, who was jovial and charismatic, and whose passionate speeches from the pulpit held us in thrall. Shortly after my family had left Egypt and moved to America 2 years earlier, the murder of Kitty Genovese dominated Harry Rubin's sermons. He'd constantly decried her brutal slaying, pounding the lectern as he recalled that dark March morning in 1964 when she had screamed, "Help me," but no one came to her rescue. He terrified us with his vision of a country where some 40 neighbors could listen to a young woman's cries, shut their windows, and not bother to call the police. Yet even at his most fiery and intense, Rabbi Rubin radiated goodwill and bonhomie. His wife, on the other hand, while perfectly proper and polite, seemed somehow disapproving, even when she greeted us and wished us good Sabbath. I had the feeling she didn't much care for any of us in this little immigrant congregation where fate had landed her. The Rubin daughters didn't budge from their chairs, and they tended to play among themselves. David, the lone son, occasionally wandered over because little boys were permitted to enter the women's section, and many darted in and out during services to confer with their mothers. Our section was situated at the rear of the synagogue, though a portion of it jutted out into the sanctuary. It was small and rectangular-shaped, surrounded on 2 sides, the front and the left, by a decorative beige wooden fence. The right side's natural boundary was the synagogue wall. Although it was an enclosed space, much like a pen, it felt more cozy than claustrophobic. Mom and I always took seats next to the divider on the left, where we could look out into the sanctuary and follow every prayer, every movement by the men. I went to services dutifully every Saturday morning. I'd walk hand in hand with my mother from our house on 66th Street to the beige brick synagogue around the corner on 67th Street. Together we would climb the dimly lit staircase to the sanctuary on the 2nd floor, which was bathed in light from the window.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?